Hey everybody, Jason here with Summit Initiative. Thank you for taking the time to watch this interview with Brian and April Burnett. I'm really excited to be able to partner with them as they step out in trust towards serving marriages within the law enforcement communities as well as first responders communities. You'll hear parts of their stories and the struggles that are unique to law enforcement and first responders. And I just pray that and hope that you enjoy the interview. If you want to hear more stories like this, and if you are, as you hear this and you feel the need and the desire to want to be able to come and support, we would absolutely love that. You can do so by subscribing to the channel, by sharing this interview with other people. And you can support Brian and April directly through the Summit Initiative website financially to help kick this ministry off and get us the funding we need in order to open the doors and serve those that God is opening doors for us to serve. So I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Brian, the first time I ever met you, and I don't know if you remember this, although we've talked about this, you had pulled me over coming up, because you were a deputy at the time, I think, and you pulled me over coming up the road, and I was speeding. You had every right to pull me over. As you ran my license, I remember you coming up to the side of the window saying, "Hey, you're going to have to step out because you're under arrest." And I went, "What?" And so I was so confused. And what happened was my license got suspended, and it was from a ticket that I had paid back in Lake Stevens, but the ticket didn't, for whatever reason, the clerk never checked it that it got paid. So I think that there was a court date that got issued. I got a letter. I probably ignored it because I'm like, I already paid that, which means that I didn't show up to a court date, license gets suspended. And then 6 months later, I'm driving up the road, get pulled over, and you had every right to pull me over and then arrest me, man. So this is my first interaction with Brian. And I remember you saying, it's funny because you probably have done this.
I probably drove on you. What kind of car were you driving? Was it your license?
Yeah, like that guy looks like trouble.
Oh, here's a good one. Let me just stop this guy.
Yeah, I deserve to get pulled over. I was like, I think, sir, I think this is a mistake. And could you tell me why it is that my license got suspended? And you were gracious enough to go, yeah, it's, you can pay a ticket. And I said, oh, I did pay that ticket. I'm sure this will be, taken care of soon. And you said, hey, you've been cool. You said this to me. You're like, hey, you've been good. Like you're not disrespectful. I'm going to let you go, but you can't drive this. And so you punched my license. I'm walking up the road to my house in my suit because I was on lunch for working at the bank. And I remember ended up getting, I called the court in, Snohomish County. They like, oh yeah, here's the paperwork to get it fixed. And I think maybe an hour later I had my license back. I went down to the DOL and they reissued it. But it was funny because I'm like, that was my first interaction with Brian. So the second time I ran into Brian, we were bunkmates at a men's weekend. And I knew that you were the sheriff at the time. And I remember going, man, you look so familiar. Like, where have I seen you before? And you, my friend, are burned into my memory forever as the guy who was gracious enough not to arrest me. So thank you. I wanted to just publicly say thank you.
Being that we were bunkmates, I'm glad that I didn't make you angry.
Yeah, that would have been awkward.
Not knowing that I was going to get something in the middle of the night, right?
It's serious. It's always the risk you take, man, in law enforcement. The first time I met you, April, I don't know if you remember this, but we were coming back from the word retreat. We're coming back from the men's weekend, and you guys were all meeting us. We were picking up all of our gear at the school, and we had that church service. And I think we sat with you guys, Stephanie and I, and shared a meal after service. Yeah, we shared a meal, and we were from, at the time we were living in the other side of the mountain. So we never got back together again. But I just remember that moment of like, oh, they were really great. Yeah, had a chance to.
That's kind of makes me think, because I don't remember who we sat by at one of those, but he says we met when he was a freshman. I was a sophomore, and I don't remember that either.
Yeah, it's usually me that I don't remember stuff. Obviously, I don't remember any of those times you telling me, and I don't know why you didn't make an impression on me.
Wasn't that an impression? Well, I'm glad.
We're going to make memories here forward. Yeah, I will remember those, I promise you.
Let's do better memories moving forward. Tell me the story about how we got reacquainted, and we'll go from there.
The time I remember is we connected at Grace City Church. I think it was a Wednesday night youth group or something like that. You were traveling over. You guys were wanting to move back to this side of the mountains, and you were bringing your boys, trying to get connection there. And you updated. I saw you. We started talking. So obviously, I remember who you were. And then it was just like it seemed like, I don't know, a year later or something, and you reached out to me, I don't know, via text message or a phone call, and said, "Hey, let's to get together. I'm kind of curious of what's going on." At that point in time, I didn't get reelected. You knew that we were, a new chapter in our life. And then obviously um, I think it was a couple months later, I reached back out to you, said, "Hey, let's get together for breakfast." And that's where it was started really connecting, because all of a sudden, bam, it was like, okay, this is not by accident. God's really placed us together. And then it was just one thing after another that just confirmed that.
Do you remember what you were thinking about as you're coming into that breakfast? Because I had no agenda.
Nothing.
I
Zero.
was just wanting to hear how things
No.
are going with you.
I love pancakes at Smitty's, so I was ready to go eat some pancakes, right? So no, seriously, it was like, no, I'm just open at that point in time. We're just a couple, 3 months into after losing the election, searching for what God had for us next. We knew he had something. We honestly didn't know what that was. We were excited to find out what it could be. At that point in time, we're just like, hey, so let's get together and see what's going on. And then it was like, click, so that was cool.
When in that season for you, April, what was it like as you guys were trying to sort out what was next? What was God kind of leading you toward?
Yeah, it was a rough year. A lot more than I think both of us expected. Just the transition, going as fast as a locomotive and then all of a sudden be on a wagon train, type of a thing. And a lot of emotions, uh, walking him through emotions. I actually was going through kind of a crisis of my own in not what my identity was, but who I was. I wasn't a cop's wife anymore. I wasn't the sheriff's wife anymore. And because with that comes mental and physical and
Coping, putting up with me.
yes.
That's what she really means.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yes. But and now I didn't have that either. And pretty much all our kids were grown. We still had 2 daughters living in the house, but they were 19, 20, and or 20
Adults.
and adults. I wasn't babysitting them and schooling them anymore. And so, yeah, just trying to find out who I was and what my next role was for him, and my next mission for the Lord, because he was my mission. And so it it was an interesting year. A lot of tears. A lot of tears. Yeah.
I
So,
kind of learned what the new definition of weight.
yes.
There was this theme we'd have people say, "In the Lord, you know our story. The Lord provided for us financially, even before. I mean, like instantly, right after the election. I mean, it was just it's bizarre how far out in front of us the Lord was to doubt and question. But it was like this theme of people coming in. Oh, the Lord set you up. Now you can just sit back and wait. And I'm like,
We don't wait
we
well.
don't wait. We
don't
do.
sit still
And
well.
what is it? And that was the problem. It's like, but what are we gonna do? I don't know, but I don't want to wait to find out. Let's move forward. Let's figure that out. And as we got through, we were mentoring with an amazing man, Greg McPherson, weekly, and trying to figure that out. It all of a sudden, and I think it was probably 8, 10, 12 months into this process that it was like, oh, okay. And because the Lord says it needs to be from me, it can't be from you, which is interesting because just Sunday, the one of our pastors is teaching out of Leviticus of all places. In the message, one of the messages says, we got to look up, quit looking within yourself. You don't have the answers. We never will have the answers. But we're men, right? We want to fix it. We need to move. I have thoughts and ideas, and that season the Lord's like, no, I might give you those thoughts and ideas, but I'm going to direct you on what that looks like. And I think April said it best. She said, if we hadn't lost the election, if I'd have retired on my own terms, she says, you wouldn't have retired. There would always been a reason to rerun. I didn't want to be the geriatric sheriff, right? But I also wasn't ready to quit. I had more plans and things that I thought should be happening. And we found out that the Lord had different ideas. And so he had to slow that down and help us understand what that looked like. And I think I'm still figuring it out. I know I'm not there yet, but I've got a much greater appreciation where it says, no, wait upon me, not wait upon and then you, right? Do. No, it's all about him and very much less about me.
Yeah. The whole idea of waiting is I'm not a fan of it. It's painful. And usually when I wait, I'm not waiting hopefully. As you wait, do you wait with hope? Do you wait with fear and anxiety? How is it that you wait?
Fear was not a factor. It was a matter of when maybe the Lord thought we were ready. And I think was the hardest thing, is going through last year, and nothing really happening. So knowing we weren't ready, whether it was our hearts.
I've prepared you all your life for this moment, 30 plus years, and then, but you're not ready.
You're
right?
not ready.
But you've been prepared up to this point. So just hang on a little longer and we'll fine tune it.
I know.
I was like, what? Was it like more? I don't have that much time left in me, right?
But, there was a lot of healing, and there were some certain things I wanted to see from Brian, knowing that he was ready. And I wasn't seeing that for a long, long, long time. But I feel like I see it now. And I do feel that the waiting is over in the aspects of, I almost feel like that locomotive is starting to kick back into gear and move forward again in decisions that we've made in our personal life and decisions we're making in our ministry life. And that's,
And those aren't small decisions. Those are
No,
big decisions
they're
because they impact the family.
huge.
And that's what's hard. We talked about this. It's like, okay, I feel prompted by the Holy Spirit to do this, but it doesn't just impact me, and it's going to impact my kids and grandkids. And so I can know that if the Holy Spirit's prompted me, that he's got it worked out. So it's going to be better for everybody, right, down the road. And probably they're going to be blessed because we took the step and the act of obedience, of blind faith, to go, it doesn't make sense, but we're going to do this. But a lot of times your friends and family don't get that. And so there's this opposition from the beginning, and it's like, oh my gosh, but I know that the Lord's telling me. And so trying to talk that into say, I just trust me. You might be mad at me now, but just trust me. And then you flop that back. It's like, yeah, that's what the Lord's been telling me. Just trust me. And it's like, yeah, but I want to know what it looks like and what it. But I agree with April. No, not the fear side of thing. We had peace from the very beginning, even up before the election results came. And then all of a sudden there they were. We have this peace. Doesn't mean that there's not confusion and there's doubt and there's questions and, oh my gosh, what's it going to look like? No, all those are real justified emotions. That's what we had to work through, and through this mentoring and coming alongside. And then all of a sudden you're there confirming. I mean, it was that day at breakfast and you asked me, said, well, hey, tell me what you're up to. And I'm like, hey, we're getting ready to go to this Stronger family conference in Boise, Idaho. And we said, we think we're going to glean some stuff. And then all of a sudden I see this big smile on your face. I'm like, what? You're like, dude, I used to, I facilitated. I taught for those guys for a bunch of years. I know those guys well. You'll love it. You'll glean it. And then you and I had some real similar passions on what we wanted ministry to look like. And it wasn't exactly what they did, but we knew they had something to offer that we could glean from. And so we wanted to go down and see what that was like. And we're really glad we did, because then, and then the next phase is like, we're mentoring with Greg, and Greg is like, curriculum, curriculum, curriculum. You got to have curriculum. And I'm like,
And we're both
and they
going,
were like,
oh,
and
we don't
thankfully
like
he said it. He goes,
curriculum.
I'm just getting the impression that you're not going to be the one to write the curriculum, or that's not, and it's like, that's not your skill set, or that's not what the Lord has put on your heart or your talent. I'm like, exactly. But then again, we're like,
But then he goes, curriculum, curriculum, curriculum.
how, what, where?
This is like,
And then all of
oh.
a sudden, it wasn't a day or two later, I'm talking to you, and you're like, hey, man, I just wrote this marriage curriculum. I don't know what, I haven't been able to use it. What do we do with it? Oh, you want me to send it to you? It's yours for free. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? You know, the time, it's just not what God provided. Sometimes it's the timing of it all.
Mhm.
And there, I could go on to multiple stories just since you and I started, we started connecting, and it's just like, okay, God. So the clarity, as it started to come into play, at first it's like that, there's that excitement of what's it going to be look like, that their anticipation. There's a I wouldn't call it fear, but there's a lot
Yeah, pregame.
pre-game
Yeah.
jitters of
Yeah,
just like, I don't know
sure.
what the score is going to be.
A
you
whole
know?
new game that you don't even
You
know
know.
what the rules are
I
yet.
mean, I think it's almost like being blind, and then you're gonna, okay, cool, okay, we've been in this bubble, and the football game's gonna start, but you have no idea. You're gonna walk into this atmosphere. It could be snowing, raining, lightning
Yeah.
and thunder. It could be 100 degrees and the sun bearing down on you. You don't know until that veil is opened up, and it's like all of a sudden now I can see the picture. Or sweet, that's exciting. But now it's like, okay, we're waiting for the full picture. It's like dot to dot. The shape is there. Now the form is coming in. There's blurry vision. It's starting to get clearer. We just want to walk in obedience to see what he has and say, I want to ride this out with you, and let you do the take the wheel.
I love stories of when we get caught up in God's adventure, and that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Where you get to go. I had no idea coming into a meeting. I thought we were just having pancakes, and then I hear what you're doing. I'm thinking, oh, how cool! And then I feel like the Lord in the moment's going, hey, there might be something here, and I want you to give it away. And okay, this is what we'll do, because I don't know what you're going to do with it, and it's like, Lord, if it's my fruit or if it's your fruit, that's like, I mean, it's okay. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's mediocre, let's say at best. But then when it's God's fruit, it's a whole nother level. And it's a story that it's not just worth living. It's a story that's worth dying for. And I think that that's what I love about those stories of adventure, and you guys, trusting God and just kind of walking toward him step by step, even in the uncertainty, because it's a story worth dying for, right? Because it's his kingdom being forwarded through your obedience, especially when we don't know what he's doing. And I feel like that's every day for me. I just go, Lord, I don't know what you're doing. I walk, right? I'll walk. And that's my most common prayer. Like, what are you doing? I'm in, and I love it. And it's good, and it's hard, and it's exhausting. All of those things wrapped into one. I'm in, but what, could you just give me a little glimpse of what that next step looks like? I'm not asking for clarity. Lord, I trust you, and we trust you, but would you continue to lead us into the adventure?
So those confirmations of our faith-based decisions are multiplying and coming in like that. Then we start going, oh, okay, I'm still nervous. I'm still a little bit of fear and trepidation because I'm entering into new waters, and I've never done this before. And so the outcome is not like, how will I perform? What will be the response? What will it look like? Will we be successful? Right. And so all of those things are real. At the same time, there's an excitement saying, okay, I see you, you're lining it up. This is you. This is not us. This is awesome. Great. I think the other piece was, I think when we had talked about what would a partnership look like with our heart and what we wanted to do with law enforcement marriage ministry versus Summit Initiative and what you currently do. And you had said, well, it could look like, no, let's talk about that. And I felt I shared with April, I felt on my heart, that's like, I feel like I need to go to Jason and ask him directly. I was feeling like, okay, this all of a sudden the Lord has brought you into our lives, and there's someone initiative that has all of these resources, and you make it easy. And so at that point in time, I remember coming to you and said, would you be willing to do this? And I had a couple things. I said, I want to be true partners. I don't want you to just come in and help us and then launch us and set us free. And then we create our own thing. I said, I think the Lord is bringing us together for this. And I believe through confirmation again, it's like, okay, this is great. I don't think I still have quite got a grasp on it, but I think it'll come into view.
I don't think I've ever had clarity for any decision that God has ever asked me to make, which is okay. Like, and I think too, you guys have experienced this where over time He's just going, hey, just trust me, just keep walking. Clarity comes in hindsight, certainly. Like we look back and go, oh, look what He was doing. And that's the beauty of the year that you just came through, is that we get to look back and go, look what He was doing. It was His hand leading us, and it was His guidance and Him setting up appointments, and it was Him with us over pancakes, and like it was Him. It was the Lord leading us, and if He's going to continue to do that, then I'm hopeful. I get to look towards the future with hope, to go, He's in it, and if He's in it, what do we have to worry about? I mean, it's not that it's not going to be hard. It will, but it's going to be good because He's in it. Mm-hmm. What is the passion that got put on your heart for law enforcement, Leo?
I think for me, it's equipping the wives how to deal with the life of an officer and how it affects the family life. And we were never, we had no idea. There were some really hard times, rough patches, no communication. He'd come home, something happened at work, wouldn't say anything, just would go off and do the yard work or whatever, and immediately the spouse thinks it's them, they have an issue with the relationship or whatever. And so to me, just wanting to communicate with the wives and let them know that this is what's going on. When we went to the Stronger Families, and he wasn't even in law enforcement anymore because he retired. And that's the first time that I ever saw, from a first responder's point of view, the list of PTSD manifestations, or I guess you would
warning
say.
Signs.
And I'm sitting there reading them, and I'm going,
that's what she's doing. She's like,
I'm going,
those.
oh my gosh.
I had those 20 years ago. No one told us that's
what
what they could be. Maybe they were, maybe they're not. But they said if you have X amount of these or more, this could be a warning sign.
Nightmares.
Hello, wake up.
Anger, all these things that I'm thinking, this is almost not fair that they did not even warn the spouses. And so that's part of my goal, being there for the wife and trying to, because she's going to be the mastermind, I believe, in whether how well her spouse comes out. And there's a saying, and I wish I could, Lisa, I cannot remember her name, but she said that the greatest influence a man can ever have is the influence of his wife. And we are not that as women in our culture. We are all about me and all about what I want. And so that's.
Yeah. So if I had to put it in bullet points, the first off, we knew that this was going to be a faith-based Christian ministry. So we wanted, our primary target audience is to be those who profess a relationship with Jesus Christ, that are married, and one of them is a law enforcement officer, or maybe both. And so traditionally speaking, April's going to talk about the spouse, the wife, because the percentages are going to be way above the average. It's not 51%. It's probably going to be way in the 70s, 80s, 90s. So we'll talk about, but the role of the spouse has been underplayed
Mhm.
to support the wife, or in the other hand, it could be the man that is in that role, because there are female officers, and so it's going to be potentially that opposite side. So we believe that they've been underprepared, not just underprepared, but if what we've seen personally, in my agency, or good friends that have went through very serious post-traumatic stress situations because of the accumulation of stress that they've packed on over time, and then maybe one incident breaks the back, right? And all of a sudden they're spiraling down. They have no control of it. I can't stop the nightmares. I can't stop the feelings, the fears, all of these things. Is this massive impact on both the spouse and their children? And it's like, it's not just the first responder that's going through this living hell, it's their entire family. And so what we want to do is empower them to say, if this we one, prepare them, because if we proactively versus reactively say, no, we're going to prepare you so you can manage this. But if, heaven forbid, that it does happen to you and your family, your spouse is so dialed in a confident level, not that it's going to be easy, but they will be able to navigate this in confidence to say, I'm never leaving their side, for better or for worse. If that's the vow that you said, we want you to be able to feel like you're not alone. One, that God Almighty is with you, but you have a support network there, and you've been prepared to say, okay, I see it, here it comes. I need to do something about it, but I'm not going to, maybe this is a long journey, but just to build that confidence. I think the other piece is that our culture has said, when you put the uniform on and go to work, your faith has to stay home. That is the biggest lie. That's from it's demonic. It's from the pit of hell.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying you go out and you be stupid, but I'm saying you go out and you be obedient to the Holy Spirit and allow him to allow you to be who you are in him. What's your identity in Christ? He made you a certain way. You're not supposed to be ashamed of the gospel. And in through any vocation, the Lord is going to place people in our lives that we need to speak boldly and confidently in the name of Jesus Christ. And because you and I said this, I cannot not tell them what is the greatest thing that has happened to me and what empowers me, because I don't do it and make it on my own. I fail on my own, and through the grace and mercy of Jesus Christ, he's allowed me to live abundantly. And so I think that's the biggest message, one of the biggest ones. As a
Mhm.
couple, go forward in confidence and say yes.
We work with military, right? Summit works with military, and military puts a ton of money and time and energy into trying to understand the problems of military and try to get soldiers to be better soldiers. And they have this thing called the preservation of the force and family, where they've researched 5 different areas, or have come up with 5 different areas of what makes an effective and efficient soldier. And family is certainly one of those things, this is in a sense, we're saying the same thing about law enforcement. We're going, without the family backing, without the family, this officer is a less effective officer in the world and in the environment that he or she is serving. One of the other, and I don't know exactly all 5 categories off the top of my head, but one of the other categories is spirituality. And so they call it spirituality, right? Which is like your understanding of the spiritual and, of God and however, from a soldier standpoint, however they come to know that. But the culture has changed it to where spirituality is bad. What's funny is that now the Army's going, no, it's good. We can't take it out. We need it. These soldiers need, these warriors need spirituality, because it's a foundation that we're missing. It's like a leg of a chair that's missing. It's interesting how it kind of comes. It's almost like a pendulum, right? Like it'll swing out like, no. But then there's like, as it swings out, all this negative stuff comes because we've kind of tossed, it out the door. And then there's a recognition that, no, there was something valuable there. In fact, in order for us to be effective in what we're actually called to do, or what our job, even like as a soldier, law enforcement, or the firefighter, paramedic, you name it, you have to have that. You have to have it. So thank you for being on this journey. This is so cool. I'm excited to see what God has. What are you hopeful for? What are you looking forward to?
Just the continuation of those divine appointments, whether that's people, because you can't go into ministry, you can't go out and try to do um, God's work. I mean, that it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to be in full time ministry. You could just go to work and do and answering the call. Is that knowing when I do that that I'm going to be blessed because I'm going to meet new people. They're going to speak into my life. We're going to get to share our failures, our experience to say, and hopefully at a much younger age or less into your career, that we can pass along some tools, both, that are practical and also spiritual, faith based, that will allow you to thrive both in your marriage, which is most important because you can have the best career ever. And if your marriage and your family fails, then you're a loser. It's been a failure. And we don't want that. You can lose your job, keep your family, and you're still a winner. And so that's what we want to do. And we're excited about that to see what the Lord, this is his. And so we're excited to see where he takes us. We're excited about getting out and going and meeting new people, going new places. So we're here.
Starting a new movement um, of stronger families in the law enforcement world, and that they actually impact their department instead of become one of the problems. So we've seen both sides, and it's something during some of our campaigns is have been pretty sweet for me, because as we traveled around the county and having people come up to me and or him and say, do you remember me, and the impact that he had to the community while he was a deputy, especially, um was just it didn't erase everything that we went through as a family, but it made me reassure that he was still on board with listening to the Lord through his work. And even one gal even came to the Lord through some things that he said, and it wasn't even necessarily preaching at her. It was, you need something better. You need something more, and I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but I do remember that she was just standing there just in tears, off drugs. She found the Lord, and she'd been reunited with her family and just living a very blessed life. And she equated it to my husband and dealing with her on the streets. And that's what I want. I want um, believers that are in law enforcement to make a difference in their community and to be there, to go to work with a Christ mindset.
And they shouldn't have to sacrifice their families for this. And so to give them the tools, and I'll give this example and close it out. And I want to give credit to a guy. I'm going to call him out. One of the best cops I've ever known. Had the privilege of hiring him and promoting him. Um, Sergeant Brent Frank, great communicator, great cop, great trainer. And when we went through the legislative changes in 2020 and 2021, when Washington State was just, to me, bringing in horrible policy, and it was allowing the criminals to be successful and taking tools away from law enforcement, right? And we went out and did some community events to educate, to say, here's what just got passed, so here's what you need to know about it, and this is the truth. And Brent stepped up on stage with us and made this comment that I'll never forget. He said, listen, I know when I decided to go into this profession and when I put my uniform on daily and I go to work, I make the mental mindset decision to say, I'm willing to die for you today. I'm not willing to go to prison for you today. And so if you paradigm shift that to the family, it says the law enforcement officers are willing to die and sacrifice for you. They should not have to sacrifice their own personal families and their life. And so here we are to say, if we can give you some little snippet of truth and to help you make sure that that doesn't happen, then I think we've done a good thing.
How has God used your experience with Summit, specifically between you two and then your family? Because we've recently done stuff with both. How has God used it to speak to you and to change you and to, I mean, what is the benefit of Summit been to you personally and your family?
That's a good one, because I feel like for me, it's definitely emboldened me. And not that it's been easy, but I think I told you, I feel like since we went through our story, my story, with you, within a month's time, I felt the Lord pushing me off the ship and saying, it's time to swim.
Walk the plank,
Because I had a homeschool group want me to come and speak, which was just totally random, out of the blue, because we homeschooled. And I incorporated my story in that. And then I signed up for a women's class. Not that I felt like I needed it, because it was everything I've been preaching for 10 plus years. But I thought, well, I'll just go and maybe make some connections, and I I signed up, and within an hour, practically, the coordinator called and said, I want you as a leader, and so it just, and it's been beautiful. I've had some women at my table, and it's been teaching me things, and the Lord's been stretching me and growing me. And so I feel that it's, uh, I think this last year, there's been a lot of healing also for Brian and my marriage. Um, and this year, I mean, we're already in pushing the fourth month or third, no, but I think that my story has benefited from that. Yeah, nothing but positive for sure. Painful. Growth is painful, you know. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Lord is going to do with the story. And try to stay out of the way.
I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is, as an elected sheriff for 12 years, you know, you're the top dog. They love to say that, a couple of my assistants always refer to me as El Jefe, and it was a joke, but it's not just the weight that carries, but you're always this person, and everybody comes to you and says, oh, hey, we want you to lead this and lead that and be on this and be on that. And I don't need that personally. I just need to know, am I making a difference? Do I like to be recognized? Absolutely. I'm human flesh. I need to know that what I'm doing is making a difference and somebody sees that. It doesn't need to be in a big way. But more importantly, I just want to be on a team that's doing something. I want to be part of that team. I don't need to be the captain. I don't need to be, the solo leader. I just want to be on a team that's winning and being successful. And sometimes that's like, for me, what I'm doing now vocationally, I feel like my support role for the owners is helping them be successful. And what they do with that, if I support what they do with that, then I'm successful. I don't need to be like, I'm the sole business owner and everything I do and my people support me. And I think that was the beauty of Summit Initiative. We came to you, said, we want to be part of this if it does this. And it did, and it does. We're joining your team. I want to help Summit Initiative be successful. and here's our expertise, and this is where we're gonna focus on. And so, and it's like coming in and high fiving and being, I've got all of a sudden I got these resources that's like I never would have dreamed of. And it's like, yeah, I just love that team mentality. So I think that's for me is like, I don't have to be the guy. I'm one of the guys on the team. And it's a whole bunch of people. And it's, again, this as an executive director, and you've got your board members and you've got your supporters and you've got all of these other people networked. They're all part of that team. And so that to me, I'm so excited about that part.
What is your biggest need? Like, what's the biggest hurdle right now to be able to do what it is that God's called you to do? Like, how can people, if they're listening or watching this, how can people encourage you towards, following and trusting God?
I think for me, knowing there's a need, um, because I mean, we have a story to tell, our story, but if you're standing in front of a group and your mind's constantly feeling like, oh yeah, I don't have that issue, we just do our own thing, and which we have heard, and it's just like, where were you when your husband was going through all of this stuff? Oh, she was working, oh, I have my job, you do your thing, I do mine. And I just, I guess, want to know, is there a need? Is there a need, like we have felt the Lord impressed that there's a need? Or are we kind of going to be, am I going to be talking to women that are not searching or not wondering, am I the only one? Because it's lonely. It's lonely being a cop's wife. And it's even lonelier when you're the sheriff's wife. So it's, I mean, that was where I was at. And yes, it could have been part of my personality. That's why I just am curious, I guess, is there a need?
I suspect that the need is overwhelming, and you'll quickly see that. That's my suspicion. People are going to show up to these things because there's a need, and there's a desperate need for connection, and to know that you're not alone, and to know that other people are struggling with the same thing. I mean, that's what we need as humans, is to recognize that we're not at this alone. And that doesn't matter if you're doing it for law enforcement or church or homeless youth or, single moms, you name it, military, it's all the same basic human need. And yeah, you'll see it. You'll see it. I'm excited for you to see it. And I'm excited for you as you trust God to watch him use your experience and the things that you've gone through to start to bring hope and healing to others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think you're going to see. And that's exciting. It's exciting.
I guess I put the challenge out to our listeners. That's what's so funny. Is like, who the heck is going to listen to us? Yeah, where you are. I will look right into the camera and say this to you: is if this strikes a chord with you, you don't have to support some initiative. Do something, whether it's prayer support in your local church. Obviously, if the Lord puts that on your heart, I would challenge you to go find a way and ask him, how do you support that? On a practical note, is we know this is going to take time, material, and it's going to take some money. And I'm going to tell a quick story. Is 2 Sundays ago, we're coming out of church, and all of a sudden I hear somebody, hey, Brian. And I'm going to say his name because it's important not to forget those times. But he's a federal law enforcement officer, Lars Olson, and he's like, hey, and he knew briefly what the Lord was putting on our hearts to move towards. And he says, I'm just curious. And I didn't even know he had started going to our church. I hadn't seen him. And he's like, yeah, I'm just curious, where are you at with this law enforcement ministry thing? And so I gave him a 5-minute update, and he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out $100 bill and he says, can I just pay? Will this be helpful? Can I just help you out? He had no idea that about less than a week earlier, we had approached you and said, you know what? I feel like the Lord is putting on our heart that we need to start preparing for the future. We're going to end up traveling. We're going to end up needing materials and equipment and travel expenses. And even though we're well taken care of on a vocational side of it, that allows me to work remotely, now, or at least for now, and it's providing for the bills. Is like there's going to be some of this stuff, and depending on where the Lord takes us, we're going to need some stuff. But I said to you, is I really feel like the Lord is saying you need to prepare for the future because you're going to need to get offload some stuff, and that could be income. And I do some contract work for some different people, and there's only so much time of the day.
Yeah.
And I know that if something doesn't give, you can't be excellent to those. And I want to be excellent at what we do. So we're going to step out in faith and saying, build it and they will come, but we're going to need to have some funds for that. So we are going to need to go out and fundraise. And I hate that. I go from being a politician. I hate that word, because when I got into law enforcement and then and felt led to run for sheriffs, like I wasn't a politician. I was just doing what I felt like the Lord was leading me to do. And I stepped out in faith, and it was scary.
Mm.
It was one of the biggest, scariest things I've ever done. And the Lord has rewarded us immensely. And so we're at that next step going, I'm going to need to do this. And we're going to trust in the Lord to do that. And literally less than a week later, unsolicited, a guy reaches into his pocket and hands me $100 bill. It's confirmation to say, yes, you need to prepare and you need to do that. So there's a practical sense of asking, say, if that Lord puts that on your heart, don't give to us, but if the Lord's on your heart, find it where the Lord wants you to give, and put into that, invest in.
Yeah.
And I think that we're all going to get to be on that team and see what the Lord does with this. So I'm so excited about that.
Well, people are going to hear this and they're going to see it, and they're going to go, I suspect again that God is going to stir people's hearts. So if your heart's being stirred right now, it's because the Holy Spirit, you see that God is at work and he's on the move. And if people want to support this, they should go to Summit Initiative, and there's a spot where they can support law enforcement, and that money will go to law enforcement workshops and the resources that we have to support families within law enforcement. If people want to reach out to you, I'm just going to give them your email addresses, right? It's Brian@summitstory.org and April@summitstory.org, so they can reach out to you and just ask and maybe connect with you, find maybe what's happening or how they can be praying for you, things like that. And then lastly, we have some story workshops. Our story workshops, which is our marriage workshop, coming up, and locally in Kashmir, Wenatchee area. And then we're going to have plenty more coming up as well. So, stay, hopefully people will stay connected and be reaching out to you guys, reach out to me, Jason at summitstory.org. And then we can get people to come to these things. But this is I feel the locomotive moving. Yeah. And it's like, well, once it gets going, those things are really hard to stop.
They are hard to stop.
So I'm excited. And I love that you guys are, that we get to do this together. I'm really excited about that. And I can't wait to see what God has in store. So thank you for trusting him, and keep trusting him.